Don't ask me where it came from.
Wow.
I swear I do not know where it came from. It just popped in there. And after the promo shut down, Tony Schiavone was right here. Shoo! Jesus, Arn, you just named you guys. I did.
Our part of our modern day business, the modern day wrestling, as most of the fans know it today. You're sitting there, you're Ole Anderson nephew, cousin, or whatever at this time there. When did the thought of the Four Horsemen start developing, and how did that develop?
So after the Road Warriors decapitated me for about 3 weeks, Ole goes, I don't know what I can do, with you. I can get you booked out, no problem. What do you want to do? I just said, no problem. I went to the payphone, called Bob Armstrong. I'd worked the 3 weeks for Bob previously, and he said, well, God, yeah. He said, you want to start Monday in Birmingham? I sure will. 14 months there. That's where I met my wife in Pensacola, Continental Wrestling. And for that 14 months that I was there, number one, that was a long time for a heel to be in a small territory, right?
Yeah.
Because, you can only get beat so much, they lose interest, so you had to be on top of your game. Ric Flair had been coming down in and out a couple of times, and he says, we need you in Charlotte. Jimmy Crockett is fixing to, Vince McMahon's making a move. Jimmy Crockett's going to make a move. We need you in Charlotte. He talked me into going there. Finished up with in Pensacola, which was a paradise, by the way. Went to Charlotte. Day one, I broke a guy's arm on TV. Manny Fernandez came down, slid in the ring. I backed off. He went to see about the guy, nailed him, threw him out to the floor, and dropped him on the rail. That was my introduction. That was a pretty strong
hell of an
first
introduction.
TV. And they were using Manny really good at the time. He was partners with Dusty, for God's sake.
Manny was a great worker.
Yeah,
He really was. Yeah, and, he had that attitude about him. But again, if, like Gerald says, if he whacked you, you whack him back, you're good.
So then when did you end up going, that was where you went back to WCW at that point?
No. Oh God, no. That was in '85. So I started working Ole. At some point, I'm not sure, 4 or 5 months, they talked into coming back. He and I teamed up, and we worked a little bit. We went back to Georgia, tried to refurbish the northern Michigan, West Virginia, Ohio run. That failed. Went back to Charlotte, and that's when we started the Four Horsemen gimmick.
What was the conversation leading up to that?
You know how the Four Horsemen were born?
No, I'm asking.
And this is the God's truth. Being a God-fearing man, we were on a promo with Tony Schiavone, and it was Ole, Tully, myself, Ole, and JJ, and we had 3 minutes for all of us to talk about our matches. And I'm just sitting here, and Tully started, I think, and then Ole said a little something, Rick said a little something. I'm just sitting here thinking, my God, what am I going to say to button this up? For some reason, I counted heads, 4 guys. I went, it's like in the good book it says, Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. Never has there been so much damage done. I'm paraphrasing. To so many by so few. And I just went, where it came from.
Wow.
I swear I do not know where it came from. It just popped in there. And after the promo shut down, Tony Schiavone was right here. Shoo! Jesus, Arn, you just named you guys. I did? Yeah, man, that works. In 2 weeks' time, believe it or not, of TV and doing this, even though we were heels, the fans were doing it.
Everybody in the country were doing it.
Yeah, they really
Everybody
were.
in the country this day
Yeah,
does
yeah,
it. I mean, it's one of the most iconic symbols in wrestling.
Yeah.
that, I guess. You didn't have to.
Yeah, and the other good thing is, thank God you're not from Oklahoma. You go, we three horsemen. Wait a minute. 1, 2. Shit.
Well, Art said he had to look around and count. That was that wrong Georgia education there.
Well, yeah, I couldn't just picture it in my head and count without looking around. 1, 2, okay.
Just to double check. 1, 2.
You guys are back there.
Stop moving.
I saw moving.
So we had a hell of a run.
And hell of a run, I'll say so.
But you guys weren't always together. I mean, you guys were the Four Horsemen, but it wasn't like you guys were just a faction
They
the whole
wreaked
time.
havoc against everybody on the roster, Don.
It
I
was.
know they did, but they weren't always like they still were individual champions. Well, the first time
Don't get hot.
I ain't
Holy
getting
cow.
hot. I screwed you up with the counting to 4 is what I did.
I'm so confused. Now, what number were you?
I forgot what y'all said.
I did too.
I get out of a lot of hot predicaments that way. I forgot. Yeah, but what you're saying is, once we were established as a unit, we could split off in any number of combinations
And then
and
work
work with
one or two.
work with anybody, right? And the one thing that a lot of people will never understand, you put all these factions together, and the reason a lot of them don't work out or don't get over, in my estimation, is we knew as long as we went out and however many guys were standing on that other apron, if we figured out a way to shine every one of those guys, and it may be 2 loops of shining them, then when we finally got a guy cut off and we started to mug him, that's where the heat was.
Wow, you just said so important philosophy in our business. We figured out a way to shine those other guys before we cut them off.
Absolutely. Make them
That's
super.
psychology.
For those that don't know, if they're talented, have never seen them before, they're suddenly superstars because they're bouncing 4 of us around.
And Bubba Dudley, the Dudley brothers. I mean, we love them, but that's a dear friend of ours. Bubba is such a great worker. He one time, and he actually quotes me all the time, not all the time, but every once in a while on Twitter, I see it. A wise man, Gerald Brisco, I don't know where he got the wise, but he once told me, you can't just go out there and beat the crap out of somebody and beat somebody. You got to give the guy a spot. Just give him a little spot, just to give him a little bit of credibility, then beat the crap out of him. Then you're beating somebody. And once Bubba and Devon got that down, they started just up and up and up because they were making their opponents and they're beating the crap out of them.
Be surprised how many young guys today that don't want to accept what you said, don't know what you're talking about, or just
That's too old school.
refuse to do it.
Yeah.
And there were sometimes time constraints. If you said this to a guy, he would think you were crazy too. If there was 4 opponents, it was an enhancement match for the 4 of us, there's a chance that 2 of those guys might not get in at all. Now, in those days, we just said, guys, we don't have enough time. There's 7 minutes, less entrances and exits set aside a lot of time. This is for us. Sorry, but you 2 guys may not get in. Well, if you said that to some guys today, well, what kind of response would
How
you
do I
get?
get my shit in?
Yeah, but what about, well, it ain't about you, pal.